A significant street gang shakedown. Federal authorities rounded up 13 gang members or associates in a series of raids targeting one of the most violent, dominant street gangs in San Pedro.
Officials say the gang has
authorities in Los Angeles County declaring a state of emergency over federal immigration raids. The declaration allows local officials to provide funding and assistance for families, workers, and small businesses impacted by ICE raids. And in Chicago,
before sunrise, Los Angeles woke up to a major federal operation. Teams from ICE, DEA, and FBI moved across the city in a coordinated enforcement action targeting organized criminal networks in San Pedro, Monterey Park, and downtown. Authorities secured multiple sites and collected large quantities of illegal substances, documents, and restricted items found in storage locations. Several key suspects were taken into custody as part of Operation Convergence, a 3-year federal investigation.
Early morning raids throughout San Pedro Tuesday. Authorities arresting 13 alleged members of a street gang.
One of the most violent street gangs has been put out, in large part, out of business.
By daybreak, the targets were identified and approached across multiple neighborhoods. Federal officials confirmed the detention of individuals believed to be connected to international criminal networks. Teams simultaneously reached residential properties, businesses, and storage facilities in the Harbor District, Monterey Park, and downtown Los Angeles. Secure communication hubs monitored the action with real-time support from command centers and aerial technology. By 6 a.m., dozens of suspects were in custody, and an organized crime framework operating across the region had been disrupted.
Relentless. It might take weeks, months, or years, but these folks will ultimately be brought to justice.
A multi-year investigation culminates in a pre-dawn takedown. More than a dozen members of a violent San Pedro gang tied to the Mexican mafia are now behind.
Officials later described the operation as highly coordinated and executed with precision. Each objective was completed within seconds, with teams working in unified strategy. Federal agencies including DEA, FBI, LAPT, and ICE Homeland Security investigations collaborated after months of careful planning, lawful surveillance, and intelligence sharing. Their goal: to dismantle a network responsible for smuggling prohibited items and conducting financial fraud activities across Southern California.
We are relentless. It might take weeks, months, or years, but these folks will ultimately be brought.
When the final teams completed their mission, authorities reported recovering more than $30 million in illegal goods, financial records, and false identification materials. Investigators say this was not a single group, but a cooperative network involving multiple criminal organizations. According to officials, 2 transnational groups had quietly expanded their operations through various businesses across Los Angeles, including night venues, offices, and small service companies. For years, a large harbor area gang affiliated with a known prison-based organization maintained a strong presence in San Pedro, supported by financial networks and illicit trade channels. Federal prosecutors say this coordinated enforcement action dismantled that structure and restored control to the community.
Today marks an important day in basically cutting off the head of the Hydra of one of the most violent street gangs that has been terrorizing San Pedro for years.
LAPD along
LAPT officers worked alongside federal partners as indictments were announced. In total, 13 individuals were indicted and 14 faced federal charges. Among them were 2 alleged senior organizers, Jose Vicente Castro and Ramon Martinez. Officials stated they oversaw street-level activity and communication channels connected to outside guidance. During the coordinated action, authorities recovered 9 firearms, parts used to assemble unregistered weapons, and packaged illegal substances prepared for distribution. They also located a binder with organized financial records, listing payment logs and funds routed through accounts believed to be connected to individuals inside state facilities.
15 people indicted, 13 of them arrested today, and there's likely more to come. Now, I've seen the search warrant that was executed today, and I can tell you they were looking for a whole lot of evidence.
2025, ICE agents approached a vehicle in a supermarket parking area after a targeted surveillance operation. Witnesses saw unmarked units position around a sedan before officers safely detained a key suspect. At first glance, onlookers assumed it was a routine immigration stop, but investigators confirmed it was part of a much larger financial crime and trafficking probe valued at more than $30 million.
Organized criminal gangs that we will use all resources available to address the criminal element in the city, especially here in the San Pedro area.
But they said it's people on the FBI on Gassy and 30th, and they over there by the bonds too.
People who live in the area.
The individual detained was not a low-level participant. Authorities identified him as a central figure linking international money laundering groups with narcotics distribution networks. A review of his device uncovered transaction logs, encrypted conversations, and images suggesting communication with associates in multiple countries. Investigators say this discovery confirmed long-suspected cooperation between financial syndicates and drug distribution networks operating from Los Angeles County. According to officials, the laundering groups offered shell companies, false employment records, and fraudulent identification services, while distribution groups handled narcotic supply chains. This collaboration allowed both sides to benefit across borders while blending operations into legitimate-appearing businesses.
Tensions. Homeland Security officials say they're seeing intelligence that Mexican cartels are attempting to track, harass, and target Immigration and Border Patrol agents with violence.
The financial and trafficking network extended well beyond California. Federal teams later traced related operations to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where 2 commercial locations disguised illegal cash processing activity, and to New York, where a fraudulent driving school issued fake documents for clients. The investigation exposed an interstate framework built on covert logistics, fraudulent identity services, and hidden revenue channels. As morning progressed, the scale of Operation Convergence became clear. More than 200 federal and local officers supported the effort, with hundreds of legal warrants executed and interconnected networks uncovered in a single coordinated mission. San Pedro streets were secured as tactical units completed withdrawal. Monterey Park residents observed convoy vehicles exiting the area, marking the conclusion of a carefully planned operation. What began as separate cases merged into one unified strike, a firm federal action signaling the end of deeply hidden criminal networks operating in Los Angeles.
These are the faces of those arrested. Officials say they're responsible for running both the Rancho San Pedro gang and the Mexican Mafia.
These are in part the leadership of both MA, the Mexican Mafia, and the RSP, the Rancho San Pedro gang.
By noon, evidence filled tables inside the federal field office downtown. Authorities displayed recorded funds, seized illegal substances, fraudulent IDs, digital devices, and recovered weapons. Each piece showed the scale of the disrupted network, a reminder of how deeply organized crime had attempted to operate within the city. Officials called the action a major step in the fight against transnational criminal groups. Yet everyone present understood this was only the start of a long-term mission. As the morning shifted to afternoon, the scope became even clearer. Evidence lined multiple rows: firearms, illegal substances, forged documents, and encrypted digital storage devices. Federal reports documented 133 firearms, including several modified to increase capability. Authorities also found tactical gear and accessories similar to those used by law enforcement units, illustrating how prepared the suspects were. These findings signaled the level of sophistication and the serious risks involved in the operation.
And firearms were seized, along with the tools to make ghost guns and drugs like fentanyl, methamphetamine, and marijuana. Officials say some of the people arrested also engaged in robbery and extortion to make money for the gang.
It is unusual for...
Investigators also catalogued a major illegal substance recovery, including methamphetamine, cocaine, and fentanyl totaling several tons from multiple locations across Los Angeles County. A significant discovery came from 9 covert laboratory sites disguised as legitimate businesses, such as auto shops, manufacturing rooms, and storage facilities. Inside, industrial equipment and chemical supplies were used to manufacture counterfeit pills. Authorities reported approximately 90,000 fake prescription-style pills made to resemble legitimate medication. Officials emphasized the extreme danger of these tablets, noting they were strong enough that even a small amount could cause harm. Federal analysts later confirmed that many of the materials used originated from international suppliers. The pills were made to appear authentic and were allegedly intended for distribution through community channels and online platforms, posing a severe public safety threat. Officials stated the products were designed to deceive and endanger consumers seeking legitimate medical treatment.
And RSP pays the Mexican Mafia taxes in return for their protection.
These men and women now facing multiple charges, including conspiracy to distribute drugs at the direction of the gang.
The investigation also uncovered financial schemes and illegal firearm components. Unserialized firearm kits and parts, along with counterfeit identification documents, were found stored together, pointing to a coordinated pipeline supporting anonymity and unlawful equipment access. Some fraudulent IDs were linked to individuals accused of misusing government system access to create unlawful documents. This setup allowed offenders to operate under false identities, register vehicles improperly, and obscure illegal activity. Agents estimated the combined criminal revenue from substances, weapons, and fraudulent documents reached tens of millions of dollars monthly. One investigator described it as a shadow economy built to hide in plain sight. Later, Homeland Security briefings revealed intercepted messages indicating threats toward federal personnel, a development that reinforced the seriousness and organized nature of the networks being targeted.
In a statement, the department warned the cartels are offering $2,000 for gathering intelligence on federal officials and their families, $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping or non-lethal assaults, and up to $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officials.
The same encrypted communication channels once used for illegal operations were soon found directing intimidation efforts. Federal officials described this as an organized attempt to discourage enforcement through fear. In a formal announcement, Homeland Security reported intelligence showing criminal networks discussing monetary rewards for gathering information on federal officers, attempting to intimidate them, or targeting senior officials. In response, the Justice Department launched Project Sentinel West, combining the resources of ICE, DEA, FBI cyber teams, and lapped intelligence units. Their mission: track every shell company, encrypted transfer, and overseas account tied to the networks identified in the operation. Within weeks, authorities began shutting down dozens of fraudulent businesses and freezing international assets routed through multiple foreign financial hubs. Digital forensics teams mapped financial trails once believed unreachable, marking the first time local and federal cyber divisions worked under one unified command structure. Officials called this effort not just criminal enforcement, but a national security defense strategy. They emphasized that modern criminal organizations attempt to infiltrate financial systems, technology platforms, and legitimate industries. Each arrest, asset freeze, and shutdown was part of a broader defense against rapidly evolving international threats. These groups adapt like modern corporations, one Homeland Security official said. They employ technology experts, use aerial surveillance tools, and seek insider access. This has expanded beyond narcotics. It is now about protecting national stability.
So one of the main functions of this LA County Emergency Declaration is it will allow local officials to provide rent relief to people who have fallen behind because of these immigration raids. And as these raids continue, a lot of officials say immigrants, many of them, are not going to work. They are staying home.
As the dust settled, Los Angeles experienced an unusual quiet. In San Pedro, streets once influenced by long-standing local groups were suddenly still. In Monterey Park, several storefronts once tied to illicit activity were shuttered. In Boyle Heights, residents cautiously began returning to normal routines after months of concern. These communities, long impacted by organized criminal presence, now faced a new chapter focused on rebuilding and healing. Federal briefings confirmed ongoing inquiries into fraudulent ID operations and individuals accused of misusing government systems. Some unlawful documents were traced to overseas laundering networks and front companies disguised as legitimate import-export firms. International partners have now joined the investigation, flagging global entities linked to these financial structures.